Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. We got two brand new releases that I would like to talk about. We got the new Brent Faiyaz record, Wasteland, and we also got another Westside Gunn mixtape titled Peace Fly God. So, yeah, let's get right to it. I'm gonna be honest, Brent Faiyaz has one of the best voices like right now in terms of R&B and just overall singing. I think his voice is so like sweet and so like refreshing to hear. And yes, I know the comparisons comparing him to The Weeknd and stuff like that, but I think his voice is so unique like in his own world. I mean, I think he borrows some influences like from the likes of Michael Jackson or even Prince. He's done some notable features. I think I remember the first time I heard his voice was in the Juice WRLD project at Death Race for Love, where he had this little interlude. I think it was titled Demons. It was a very nice, even though it was really short, I think his harmonies and his vocal range was honestly amazing. We also got to hear him in the last Tyler Creator album, Call Me If You Get Lost, Sweet I Thought You Wanted to Dance, which we all know that song is goated, and we also know that his voice just carried so much emotion and just range in that track that it just smoothed in so many things. And Brent has built it over discography with Fuck the World, which was I think his first what I think is his first album or EP. I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, I'm kind of glad I did it. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that I guess it kind of had me like an open mind and not like a comparison. Like it wasn't like, oh my god, I gotta compare this to this and stuff like that. But anyway, going to Wasteland now. There's been 4 tracks in here. Yeah, I think there's been a total of like 4. There's been a total of 4 tracks that have been like sort of like these teaser tracks for this record. I mean, we have tracks like Gravity, Wasting Time that came out last year that honestly it's kind of a bit odd that he includes this now since it's been an entire year that's passed by, and I think it's kind of weird. But I think the oddest thing out of this is that he included Dead Man Walking, which is basically a 2-year track at this point. We also got Price of Fame. This I think came out a week or two prior to the release of this record, which honestly I think is fine. But going back to the other singles, I kind of like asked myself, aside of 4 tracks being quite a lot just to roll out this record, why is he releasing these songs like in the span of a year or 2 years, like in promotion of this record? Well, it starts to make sense when you get to listen to this record. I mean, Brent decides to incorporate this sort of toxic boyfriend / playboy aesthetic or persona that he carries on in this record, similar to The Weeknd in After Hours, where The Weeknd felt like emotionally drained and sort of played this heartbroken individual who seeks solace, who seeks love, but at the same time sort of taking advantage of other people. You can tell that Brent's trying to string these narratives together and put them together and make sense in the order that the tracks are placed, because even the loose singles, as I said, sort of make sense within the context of the record. Sometimes it can be a little shaky because it's like, why are you placing it over here when you're placing it over here? But it sort of makes sense in a grander scheme of things. Also, you can also tell that he cares so much about the story to the point that he's incorporating these like very cinematic skits. We have Egomaniac that sort of describes him as being as a boyfriend who isn't there for a girlfriend. And by the way, the girlfriend in the story is basically pregnant, and she's going through like hormonal switches and things like that. She's being depressed from time to time, feels lonely, and she feels that he's not there when she needs him. This skit Oblivion, showcasing this conversation that he has with the girl he's having an affair with. The skit Oblivion, where you can clearly, tell that he's having a conversation and sort of flirting with this girl that he's having an affair with on his girlfriend. I'm not gonna lie, the last 10 or 20 seconds were just one of the weirdest last seconds I ever had. You can hear the kissing thing, and it's like, if I wanted to hear that, I would go to a different platform, I'd go to a different site if I wanted to hear all that raunchy stuff, especially the unzipping pants thing that just happened at the last second, where I was like, why do I need to hear this right now? But yeah, anyway, we also have the skit Wake Up Call, which is a 5-minute skit, and I remember looking at it and I was like, this is 19 tracks, an hour and 4 minutes. It's not necessarily a bad length, but it's like, you're giving me a 5-minute skit. At first I was skeptical, but then when you listen to it, it's like, okay, it makes more sense. Brent basically broke his girl's heart so much to the point that she's depressed, she's suicidal, which again, as I said earlier, can contribute to the hormonal switches that she has due to to her pregnancy, which can enable depression and anger and so many different emotions and feelings, especially when he's not there for her. But it's kind of crazy, with just hearing that they just got to that point. And the thing is that these sound effects in here are just crazy. It just feels something straight out of a movie. Brent's cars sounds like the car that you would hear from the Batman film. It's honestly crazy. And it has this theme of karma, that it has this theme of karma that it'll catch up to you. You'll pay what you owe. This type of theme that carries on in this track and as well as this record. But anyway, I want to review more of the music, and I've been talking about the storyline and stuff like that. My first listen, I wasn't completely blown away by this. I thought it was like fine to listen to, but I thought that the length, and I know it's only an hour and 4 minutes, I thought for this record in particular, it was like just really going on and on and on and on, and it just felt like they just never ended. And I also noticed that some tracks in here, I kind of felt like I kind of asked myself, like, why is this track especially here? Or maybe like maybe this track is a bit too short, maybe this track is a bit too long, there aren't really that many switch ups in there. But I think after listening to it again, I sort of give an open-minded type of outlook, and I started to appreciate this record much more than I did in the first listen. The record opens up, with this sort of like, I guess, hints of what Brent's personality is, or what character he's trying to play here is. His traits, how he feels like a villain, how he's basically, the antagonist in this entire storyline. But then it transitions to Loose Change, which I do think is a really nice low R&B track. I think it's really fine. I think it's fine to listen to. There are some qualities. There's some elements in here that I think were cool. The drums are cool. The melody were cool and smooth. But I think what takes the pie is Brent's vocal delivery. His range is crazy, and he showcases it in this track. However, I will say that there's this weird domestic abuse bar, where he says that, I'm like, sometimes it make me want to hit you, but I'm just playing, I'm not gonna do it. And I know that, he followed it up with I'm just playing, but I just still thought it was a bit awkward when you listen to it. Like, it's just like there pops up, and then you're like, why? Like out of all the things, like, I get that you're angry, but you don't have to say that flat out in this track. I think Heal Your Heart could have been a great track if it was just a bit longer. I mean, I know it's an interlude, and interludes tend to be like a minute or just 2 minutes, just something very short. And I'm not expecting some sort of T-Pab level of like 3 minute or 4 minute extremely layered track. But I think the idea was just like so smooth and so like vibrant in itself that I think if it was like actually made into a full length song, like it did not just like a throwaway interlude, it would have been just so much better. The track Oh Mine really feels layered. It feels like, I think, great enough to be its own track. I like how Brent lays down these harmonies to just really cover up this track really nicely. Ghetto Gatsby featuring Alicia Keys is an interesting one, because I would expect Alicia Keys to like really sing her brains out, because you guys know how much of a great singer she can be. But instead we sort of get like this 30-second sort of like rapping type of verse that she lays, and I don't think it was that great for this track. It kind of felt like weird. I guess she was trying to like match the moody, sort of sneaky aesthetic that this track has. I don't know why, but it just sounds sort of like serene and sort of like sneaky and quiet. And I get that she was trying to imitate it with like this really low voice to try to like mimic it. And I give her credit for that, but I don't think the verse really worked that well when it comes to the terms of the song. It's an okay track. It's there for people to like it. I do really like the production for sure. The track FITV featuring Junie was honestly kind of an odd song in this record. First half I think we continued pretty well, and the second half was kind of unexpected. I don't know who Junie is, but the rapping verse that he laid in here was unexpected. And at first I was like, this is very awkward. I don't know why he's doing this, but it just kind of matched the vibe. Like they were both talking about the same topic, the sort of the same theme, the lovey-dovey thing of I'll give you everything you want type of message. And it just blends so well. I don't know how it just blends so well. Like, a part of me, I was like, this record's supposed to be R&B, very sensual. So like, why are you bringing like more of a hip hop or rap type of sound in here? It was kind of distracting, but the more you listen to it, the more it kind of grows in you. Role Model is one of the most ironic tracks I think I've heard in the entire record, because like you hear, him. I mean, typically speaking, when artists such as The Weeknd or any person that's playing this like playboy toxic persona who's obviously a bad influence towards another person, you would expect them to be, I'm not your role model, I'm the complete opposite of a role model, you shouldn't be with me, or I'm sorry to do this. But nah, this guy flat out says I want to be your role model. And it's like, I get it, he's trying to be very sensual, very seductive in this track, but it feels so weird, like lyrically speaking, because it's like he's sort of glorifying it in this sense. And look, I get that sometimes the glorification of this persona can sometimes be fun to listen to, like basically mostly if it's like a cinematic type of record. But I think in this sentiment and this sentiment, this placement of the record, I think is very awkward and just like weird to say that when you're clearly discussing these amount of issues that you have, and it's like, why are you glorifying it now? Track Jackie Brown once again reminded me of something from Frank Ocean, like the pitched up vocals, these very laid back chords that are playing in the background just gives you this whole like vibe that you're listening to Frank Ocean record. And the drums do add some sort of flavor that adds Brent's uniqueness. I do appreciate that, but out of I guess all the tracks in here, it kind of feels like the one that I was like, okay, like this is fine to listen to, but isn't it something I can gravitate towards? It's like a bit like, I know it's 2 minutes and 49 seconds, but a part of me feels like it's a bit too short, and if it was a bit longer, it would have developed into a much more interesting track. And while I do think the production in here is pretty nice, it's pretty smooth, I think compared to some other tracks in this record, it doesn't offer that much for me personally. However, that's not to say that one of the highlights of this record is honestly great, such as Bad Luck, which I think this track, even for being 2 minutes and 42 seconds, feels very short, and it should have been even longer because I loved every single second of this track. It is smooth. It feels like kind of like old school R&B mix in there. Like I like how Brent is coming in here saying, I guess I have bad luck. I guess, I messed up. I messed up this relationship. I feel that I have bad luck. The final track, Angel, is one of the weirdest, I guess, songs of this record. It's honestly an odd way to end this record. I get the message, I get that he wants to say, you're an angel, I messed up, I shouldn't, belong with someone like you, give me another chance. But it's like, why are you saying this after in Wake Up Call, which is, the track that comes before this one, basically implies that you died in a car crash. I don't know if he's speaking this into perspective that he's already in heaven, or that they're both in heaven. I'm not entirely sure what sort of perspective he's speaking on this. I just think it's a bit odd. The track isn't necessarily bad, but as I said, the placement in this is really odd, really weird, and it's kind of like, if you would have, I guess, changed the story a bit, or just placed this thing after Bad Luck, I would have given more of a pass. But I think as an ending, it's a bit weird and odd. I do like the strings. I think they're pretty beautiful. They're pretty grand in itself. But aside of that, I think lyrically speaking, it's like, I don't know. It's not like my favorite. So I think Wasteland is a pretty solid record from Brent Faiyaz. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's his first studio album, maybe his second, I'm not entirely sure. But it's definitely more of a full-length album with it clocking in around 1 hour and 4 minutes and 19 tracks. And I believe that there are some bops in here, there's some highlights in here that I really wouldn't mind listening to, and I would see myself listening to back if I'm feeling more of a R&B type of feeling, or if I'm feeling more of a sensual, sort of this serene vibe. I think there's some really nice highlights in here, and even the ones I was too crazy about has some pretty nice production and some pretty nice vocal lines in here. But yeah, what am I feeling in this record? I'm feeling a light 7 out of 10 in this record. I think Wasteland's a good record. Definitely go stream it. You're gonna find something you really enjoy. And yeah, let's move on to the next record. So Westside Gunn, Fly God himself, dropped another mixtape called Peace, Fly God. This was honestly one of the most interesting releases that I think I've seen. I saw it in his Instagram, him posting like these little snippets of like some music that he was going to release, but it was going to be a mixtape. And hey, we got 10 tracks, clocking about 33 minutes. And reading the credits behind this mixtape alone, it's pretty impressive. We got Steve Got Cooks, which we know anything involving them two is a banger. We have SC Knack, which honestly I haven't heard his name, but after listening to this record, I want to hear more of his name. We also got production credits from Madlib himself, which is crazy. Madlib and Westside is a crazy collaboration. We also got Conductor. I think Derringer is in here as well. And also we have Don Carrera, which I haven't heard his name, but after hearing this production, I think it's pretty interesting, and I want to hear more of his production credits. I think this record, for its length, for 33 minutes and 10 tracks, I think it's pretty good. Sure, it isn't the strongest Westside Gunn album or mixtape or whatnot. It has its issues. It's sometimes pretty glaring and pretty obvious. Right off the bat with Jesus Crack, it's almost around, I think it's around 8 minutes, and there's no switch ups. It's really long, and I think it's unnecessary. It's probably my least favorite track of this entire record. It's a bit way too long. It overstays its welcome, and it's just really unnecessary to go that long over the track. Ritz Barleton is just kind of underwhelming compared to some other tracks that are in here. And well, yes, I think the first leg is a bit shaky and kind of a bit of a turnoff for most people, including me. But it starts to get much more engaging and better when we get to the track Big Ass Bracelet.
3 stripes on the Gucci. Gucci. We was back to back 63s, we all had Uzis. Cellini highs over the face looking spooky. If you ever bought a 3 for 50, nigga, you know.
Personally, for me, it's my favorite track off this record alone. The sample is honestly so glowing and so like it just matches like the vibe, the entire vibe of what drumless sample hip hop is about. And I think Westside Gunn just rap like his life depended on it. He's just flexing, he's flaunting on top of us. And Steve Got Cook's delivers one of his best feature verses I think I've heard in a while. Like, this guy is just rapping bar for bar for bar effortlessly, like if it was nothing. I think the bar where he said that he was having dinner across the table from Oprah, or across the room from Oprah, is one of the wildest lines I've ever heard of the year, to be honest. That's crazy. And the bar that he's saying that he was cooking dope at the same time writing bars over the stove that he was cooking dope was another crazy line that I remember hearing. The track Bobby Roode, which is basically the entire track by SC Nag, I think it's a great track. And honestly, I like how Westside is using his platform, using his influence, to give more shine to more underground rappers that I think deserves more respect and deserves more, it deserves more fame, or deserves more attention towards. And I think that's a really great thing that Westside did, because I think this track is good. I think this track is great. I like how it sort of carries a sort of same like chill lo-fi sample that Big Ass Bracelet had, and it just transitions very nicely to the next track.
With the work and leave hundreds of wells. It hurts when your friends become addicts, don't want to hell. Rest in peace, my nigga to die with his gun in his belt. We try to test it.
We have 2 tracks in a row involving Steve Got Cooks with Dirt Bogman and Horses on Sunset. These tracks are one of the more lengthier tracks. I mean, I think one of them is 4 tracks, and one of them is 3 tracks. At some points in this track, I was like, at some points in the song, and I was like, okay, this is a bit too much, it's a bit redundant. A sample switch would have been nice and all. But there were some other parts where I think it made up for it, with either it was Steve Got Cooks delivering with his great verses, or it was Westside adding even more, energy to the entire track. I believe Open Praise is produced by Madlib, and I think there's sort of like a signature you can tell with these saxophones that are playing. I don't know if saxophones or horns that are playing in the background. This nice set of strings, and the thing is that as I said, it does feel like a Madlib track, especially in the beginning, which you hear the sample. It's like Madlib is a huge geek when it comes to getting these samples, a huge fan when it comes to getting these old school West Side type of film samples that you would never hear from a film, and incorporating it to a track that fits the atmosphere. The sample strings are honestly a very nice element that touches in this record. Westside is talking about a long lost friend who died for him, and basically killed for him, and it was basically like a standout friend for him, and just like a real homie. I think it's one of the, it's kind of an odd lyrical placement and production style, of course, and I believe it's one of the it's one of the shorter tracks of this record alone. And aside of that, I think just Westside delivered with his verse, the repeated gunshots that are playing in the background, and just Madlib's production just hits you in the heart. It just hits you in the soul. Like when Westside is rapping and Madlib sort of like I guess giving you this more sense of urgency, giving you more the sense of pain and sorrow. It just matches so perfect. It sounds like he's straight out of Godfather. It does something out of Godfather, or like a mafia movie.
Hey yo, my pearls from Tiffany's, you can't do shit to me. The Glock 10, let me squeeze. All I need is the brick and 1,000 fiends. Clear first pipe at the top.
The next track, Danhausen, which I believe is produced by Conductor, has this repeated horn that kind of sounds like a siren almost at times, with this very fast drum break, and we just hear Westside again flaunting more about his wealth, but he does it with this flow that's just very quick, very fast, very rapid, and he's trading bar over bar and bar, and I just think it's honestly it's great. It's honestly great. I mean, for a short track, I think this is one of the better short tracks of the entire record. And sure, and I've heard complaints that the horns, and I've heard complaints that the loop, the sample is a bit annoying, it plays on forever, there's not that many switch ups, which I guess I can understand that, but I think it's kind of like the uniqueness of Conductor. Like Conductor on Westside, definitely for that Pray for God project, there were some tracks in there that I think you know, he matched the vibe that what Westside was trying to go to. It's supposed to be more dirty, very grimy in this track. It's supposed to be like very old. It's supposed to be very old school hip hop, and I think they just nailed that. I think they just nailed that sound. The first track, Peace Fly God, and the final track, Philip versus Phil, are technically just a bunch of, you know, are technically like kind of like skits in itself. It's sort of like a small skit, and I don't mind it. I mean, it's not as annoying as I would say as for instance Hitler Wears Hermes. I don't know if it was side A or side B. That the first track was basically a long ass like sort of skit that went on for 2 or 3 minutes, and I get that it's supposed to, I guess, add more to the sentiment of the record. But I think it overstayed its welcome by a lot. Like, I think it's a lot. Like, and then the next track, which is more of that, and I was like, nah, I don't want that. But I think considering the length of the mixtape, and considering how these 2 tracks are just extremely short, I really don't mind. I think it's okay. I think it's fine to just incorporate it in this mix. Yeah, as I said, I think Westside didn't miss in this one. I think he just nailed it in this one as well. It's a good mixtape. I mean, sure, it isn't his best. It's not like Hitler Wears Hermes type of level or of you know, a track. Probably it isn't like Fly God mixtape type of level as well. But I think it's a good mixtape. I think it's a good, enjoyable mixtape. That there's some tracks in here that I would definitely won't mind revisiting. So I'm gonna give Peace Fly God a light 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty good. So yeah, before this episode ends, you know, I wanna just sort of give a shout out to some albums that I've been listening to during the course of the summer. Honestly, yeah, it's been helping me get through the summer and stuff like that. First shout I want to give is Funeral with Eviscerated. I think that's a really fun hyper pop album that's just, it has so many sounds and has so much energy. It's just so vibrant for, I think, the sake of, for a length, I think, of 10 or 12 tracks for just 26 minutes. Honestly, it's so, every single minute, every single track in here is so engaging. It's gonna get you hooked. Part 1 and part 2 of Fuck Him is so just catchy and so interesting, and it's just so, like, I don't know, it's just so zany. But yeah, definitely give this a try if you're a fan of hyperpop or just want some fun material to listen to. The other album that I want to shout out is Logic with Vinyl Days. I know I didn't do a full-length review of this. I was thinking of doing it, but I was like, I don't know, it would be a bit too long. But anyway, Vinyl Days is honestly another great record from Logic. I know that he dropped that little mixtape in between, No Pressure, which was kind of underwhelming, and I really didn't like that record at all. But now coming here, there's 10 times more ambition. There's just so much energy packed in here. You can tell that he wants to carry on the old school hip hop tradition, and is influenced by the likes of Jay Dilla, Madlib, you know, the old school type of thing. And also DJ Premier makes an appearance in this record. I do really find entertaining the raps in here. They are small. They are very just rapid. They're just very rapid. It's kind of like, I don't know why I'm comparing it to Donuts, but I like that most of the tracks in here are like kind of like these short raps with this like very grimy old school hip hop beat, very nostalgic as well. That there's so much life in here. It just breathes so much life in here. I really thought that a lot of the raps in here were pretty cool. There's a lot of features in here that are really great. I do feel the skits are still very unnecessary. There are way too many skits in here that takes up a lot of the time. I think it's like 8-10 skits in here. It's just crazy, honestly. But yeah, I mean, tracks like Orville, which features Blue and Exile, I never got the other guy's name, but tracks like those are just crazy. I mean, you also have Clouds with Currency, which is another crazy track. I mean, they gave Currency his own space for the last minute, which is insane, and it just shows how much credit he deserves from his stuff. But yeah, honestly, give this a listen if you're into the old school hip hop boom bap type of thing. And honestly, I think this is another W from Logic himself. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna talk about for this episode. Definitely give a listen to both these records. As I said earlier, here's some good projects, some good music. Hopefully, I'm gonna keep on going with this podcast rollout for the near future. I'd love to review these records in sort of like this gauntlet style of short reviews. But yeah, as I said, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast, and yeah, see you guys next time. Peace out.